Thank you. Have a seat. Good afternoon. As you all know, I am about to announce the verdicts as a result of the bench trial that took place last week. Before I do that, let me just say that this is an incredibly difficult case. Not just because of the catastrophe that happened or who it happened to, but also because of the conflicting evidence and the gradations of responsibility that the law imposes. Let me just briefly discuss the counts. 26 counts in total. Counts 1 through 6 charge the defendant with aggravated vehicular homicide with respect to each of the 6 fatalities. Those counts charge the defendant with recklessly operating a motor vehicle causing the death of another person. Counts 7 through 15 charge the defendant with vehicular assault. In each of those counts, the defendant is charged with causing serious physical harm to another person as a result of recklessly operating a motor vehicle. Counts 16 through 20 all charge the defendant with assault. These charges are based on the assertion that the defendant knowingly caused physical harm to another person. You know, this job gives me the opportunity to recognize how at various points in our life we're all just a few feet or a few seconds away from a disaster. And that's what happened here. The facts of the case are largely undisputed. November 14, 2023, between 8:47 a.m. and 8:48 a.m., a fatal crash involving 5 vehicles occurred on Interstate 70, approximately 0.2 of a mile west of milepost 119 here in Licking County. At the time of that collision, traffic had slowed due to a crash that had occurred approximately 1.5 miles ahead. There's no dispute in this case that the 2019 Freightliner driven by the defendant struck the rear of the vehicle in front of it. That vehicle was pushed into the rear of the vehicle in front of it, and so on. Counts 1 through 6 and 7 through 15 all allege that the defendant acted recklessly in his operation of his vehicle, and that reckless operation caused the death, as alleged in counts 1 through 6, or the serious physical injury, as alleged in counts 7 through 15. Recklessness is defined in Ohio law as follows: a person acts recklessly when, with heedless indifference to the consequences, the person disregards a substantial and unjustifiable risk that the person's conduct is likely to cause a certain result or is likely to be of a certain nature. A person is reckless with respect to circumstances when, with heedless indifference to the consequences, the person disregards a substantial and unjustifiable risk that such circumstances are likely to exist. Negligence is defined as follows: a person acts negligently when, because of a substantial lapse from due care, the person fails to perceive or avoid a risk that the person's conduct may cause a certain result or be of a certain nature. A person is negligent with respect to circumstances when, because of a substantial lapse from due care, the person fails to perceive or avoid a risk that such circumstances may exist. I find that Mr. McDonald is criminally responsible for this accident, this collision. However, I find that the state has failed to establish beyond a reasonable doubt the element of recklessness. There was a lot of argument and evidence centered around the data from the defendant's cell phone. Frankly, I did not find the evidence regarding the data from the cell phone to be convincing. Because I find that the state has failed to meet the element of recklessness, I'm going to enter a not guilty verdict on counts 1 through 6 and 7 through 15. However, I will enter guilty verdicts on the lesser included offenses to counts 1 through 6, which are vehicular homicide, violation of revised code section 2903.06 A3A, which is based on his negligent operation of the vehicle. Counts 7 through 15, frankly, they're based on a higher mens rea or mental element than even recklessly. And because I find the state has failed to establish the element of recklessness, the evidence is insufficient to establish that he knowingly did this. All right, I anticipate that the parties would prefer that sentencing be scheduled at a later time in order to make sure we comply with Marcy's law. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, then I'll schedule sentencing at a later time. Bond is revoked. Do counsel have anything further at this point?
Yes, Your Honor, just for clarification, the vehicular assault charges are 9 counts of those are also, you're finding negligent on them, those charges, as well as...
I find that he acted negligently at least, but are you suggesting there's a lesser included offense based on negligent operation and physical harm?
I'm just asking if the court is making that finding on... No, I'm not. I'm just asking.
Okay, yeah, it's not guilty then on counts 16 through 26.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you.
All rise.